It's Gabriel.
It's Bailey.
And this is CYMK.
Hello, I am Felice House. I am an associate professor at Texas A&M University. I am a painter. I've been doing that for about 25 years.
Welcome to the CYMK podcast here at the museum.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, we were so
pleasure.
excited to have you on because of your exhibit opening tomorrow, July 20th, The Peacemakers. You're in collaboration with your husband, Dana Younger. Am I saying that right?
It's true. That is true.
Great.
And actually, in the course of the last couple of days, there are now two exhibitions.
Yes.
So we have The Peacemakers in Gallery Verde, and we have another exhibition, Trailheads,
They were talking
in
about
the Coop.
Nice.
So we've split the work, and there's two different exhibitions, both in collaboration with Dana.
How exciting.
Yeah.
And what really amazing stuff, I just have to
the
say.
work is so good. Yes, we were fangirling
So
over it
amazing.
whenever we had talked about the episode that just came out today. It was just about like you guys' work, and it's
Right. We did an
We'll get into
episode that came out today that just, it was us talking about our impressions of the work and how excited we are about the show. And then we just kept saying, oh, I can't wait to ask Felice this. I can't wait to see what she says about this.
I have a question about that. And so
That's
thank you
wonderful.
for being here. Yeah.
Thank you for actually engaging with the art and like caring and doing this podcast.
Well, so I guess to start off the conversation, in your Western series, you reimagine these historic Western heroes as women, and you do it in with the Western genre, which I really connect with because I've grown up in Texas my entire life. I've been in this small town, rural Texas, and I've never seen those heroes as women in Western. So I've never connected with the Western genre in my life before, even though I'm a Texan. But seeing your work has been like a total 180. I love it now. I love Westerns. I'm a Western girl.
You turned us Western.
Well, it's just it was just so inspiring, wonderful, just wonderful symbolism behind the work, and I would love for you to talk a bit about that if you want to.
Yeah, so in 2013, I did a joint exhibition also with my husband, Dana. We love working together. I have a lot to say about that as well, but let's back to Western. Okay, so with Western, we were both reimagining the West. And what I was doing, I was reimagining the film genre of the West, so which is very different than the historic West. So I was reimagining characters like Clint Eastwood and James Dean, Gary Cooper, and allowing those heroic roles to become women. So I consider those paintings of cowboys who are women, because the cowgirl in society has been totally co-opted and over-sexualized. Like, I remember Googling cowgirl in 2013, back when we made that first exhibition, and it was just these like wild, partially clothed ladies that happened to be wearing hats, right?
That masculine toughness to them. It's just like
They have one bandana on covering nothing.
so.
Yeah, right.
A skillfully tied bandana. Yeah, so what I'm really interested in is the ability for people to see themselves in a heroic role. And and the way we understand that is through culture, and culture has shown us John Wayne and shown us James Dean, even though they were not cowboys, actually. They are actors. But I wanted to present women in those roles that we give a lot of power in culture to.
Absolutely, because like I said, you don't see those iconic Western movies with a strong female lead, and the female in the movie is usually tied up on the railroad tracks, getting saved, or they're
maybe a prostitute,
right, a cabaret dancer, or in the saloon, hiking her skirt up. So like
waiting for their husband to come home.
I've never seen a
Waiting. yeah. There's a reason.
Yeah, so it's lovely to see them in a strong, just gruff and tough role that you don't usually see them in, and it really makes us think about how we view masculine and feminine roles in the Western genre. So love that.
Yeah, and it's also like, okay, what if James Dean or John Wayne was a woman? Like, let's imagine that movie. That's what I'm interested in. Like, what does that movie look like? the Western, so I started getting really interested in the Western genre when I moved to Texas. My parents moved to Texas when I was 15. And so I was like trying to figure out who I was. And there's this amazing genre, right, that really had no role that I, as a woman, was interested in. And so I was like, well, I can use that. I can take that and I can create a role. But also, it's not just gender. Also, these movies in terms of race are incredibly racist.
Yep.
Right? It's like this idea that a white cowboy could come onto a land that had been inhabited by people for thousands and millions of years and just own it as their own. Like, there's a lot of narratives that need to be picked out in that way as well.
Absolutely. Diversity. You don't see much diversity in many
That's what I love about,
Westerns.
like, the first thing I noticed whenever I noticed the peacemakers in the painting. I was like, there is diversity within these cowgirls, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, not only what if they were a woman, what if they were Asian, or what if they were black,
Right.
Amazing.
With the paintings, were they specific people like that around, or was it just more of like an image that you thought of, or a person that you thought of, or do you know them personally?
Yeah, so everyone in the Peacemakers I actually work with. So Gabriella Eastwood is an architect that is a professor at Texas A&M. She also grew up on a ranch in Brazil shooting guns.
Oh my goodness.
So like I not only found like her pose was real. I mean, she took that gun and she knew just what to do with it. So
Amazing.
it isn't, it's just it was interesting for me to see that side of my work colleagues as well.
That is so cool. I would feel so honored to be painted first and how beautifully you paint them, and then to like that story's kind of going through them as well. I believe. Yeah.
Well, it's so interesting too, because I think as women we're trained to make coy, approachable facial expressions in photographs. And so the models seeing themselves in these ways, like some of them were, not these in particular, but at some points, people have to grapple with the way they want to be depicted. Or other people's feelings about them being depicted in that way. Like, oh, my son doesn't like this picture of me. Like, he wants me to be more friendly. Or, I think a lot of times people want images of women to be very approachable and friendly.
Same with the women themselves.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. We navigate the world in that way.
Yeah.
And there's consequences if we don't.
Right. Well, and living in Texas, or, growing up in Texas, you see these real hardworking, gruff women that grow up on ranches and that do that hard work. But like we said, they're not depicted in those movies in that way.
Right. Yep. And I think that's where art can fill a role, like fill the role of myth in society and kind of expose us to different things. There's definitely been some amazing photo series of women cowboys.
Right.
So my paintings are a little bit different because they are kind of dealing with culture, like pop culture, and this sort of like vision of the West that's in movies.
Right. So Dana that said something in his artist statement about Western American mythology, connected with the word mythology, because it's truly become a mythology.
Yeah.
So do you want to get into about collaborating with Dana?
I do. I'm also really interested in the role of myth in culture, because I think for a long time, for the whole history of humanity, we've had certain myths. And the myth of the hero has been dominated by stories of men, Odysseus, and different people going out and conquering their demons. And I'm thinking that we're in an age that's really bringing about the equality of men and women. Now, we're not there yet, but women have opportunity to education, have opportunities to choose a career path, have opportunities to decide when they want to have children, in a way that we haven't had for the history of all of humanity. So now we're in this really interesting time where I think we need to start creating myths about women heroes to allow ourselves to see ourselves in that role.
Right, yeah, like the new goddesses of Americana or something,
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that, because we don't connect with those stories as much. I mean, even if it's subconsciously, if it's, a man depicted in a role, we just, I don't know, at least me, I don't connect with it as much until it's somebody I really see myself in that role being, so.
I think the only goddess I know of is Athena, And that's because that's only like woman goddess that everyone ever talks about. They know there's more out there, but they don't ever
Oh
bring
yeah.
them up. They're just like, oh yeah, Athena's. And I'm like, okay.
Or
Or
even,
even
like-
or is there more?
Like, man, I think some of the like Hindu goddesses too are definitely worth looking up. There's so
yeah.
just anyway, there's so many good ones out there.
But even like the founding fathers, like
Yeah.
where are the founding mothers? You know,
Right.
they're there. They were there. And they were probably backing their husbands so hard and supporting them so hard and making them get through the day. Like they contributed that too. So
Yeah, I think people need to see themselves in a heroic role, whether that's a woman or someone African American, Hispanic, Asian, of any variety, of any age. We need to see ourselves depicted.
yeah.
To feel like we fit, to feel like we like have a place.
So when it comes to like superhero movies, this was my big question. Would you like think about painting women superheroes within like like a Iron Woman, or is like, I don't know. I just feel like the way that women have been superheroes, even from comic books, has not been good. And I know they're trying to progress now, but I feel like I don't know.
It's got the same problems as the
It
Western
feels-
genre, I feel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe every other genre.
Right.
I think that's why we as women, now that we have access, it's hard to believe that women didn't have access to education until very recently.
Or could have a credit card or could own land.
Right, or could actually get a credit card without their husband signing off on it. I think that was like in the 1970s. Like it's just hasn't been that long.
And they're already trying to take it back. They're taking everything back now.
Yeah.
In the Western genre that I never grew up connecting with. So I can see where you're coming from. Definitely.
Yeah, it's funny because I make all these paintings about these movies, but when I watch the movie, they're so hard for me to watch because I'm like, right, I want there to be a woman in that role, and I want there to be a different dynamic with the Native people, and I want there, I want all these things. So in that way, I think my husband and I doing exhibitions together, I think one of the goals of our marriage is to try to figure out or navigate equality in a marriage,
Beautiful.
right? And so we're both artists, and so we try to navigate that in our artwork too. And we were just commenting earlier how we feel like these two shows are feeling pretty balanced. Like sometimes, like the first exhibition we had, maybe the paintings dominated. It was like and then the second show, the sculpture dominated, and this one we're feeling like we've got a pretty good balance going. But it's a very intentional kind of act that we understand is like a negotiation in progress because we don't have a great example to go by, of just men
Kind of
and
setting the example as you go of what feels right and what feels equal, like you're saying.
yeah. There's been artist couples throughout history, and sometimes their careers go along great until like the husband goes off with another woman, and you're like, damn it, you were almost an example,
We
and
were
you
rooting for
screwed
you.
up. Charles and Ray Eames, it's like all these people that we look up to, and then they kind of like something goes haywire. Anyway, we're doing our best.
Did you guys start collaborating from the moment that marriage contract was signed, or like did you work it into the relationship? Like how did that
It's
go?
written in the contract, actually. So
Written in the marriage contract.
That's so funny. So Dana and I met. When I was in my 20s, I was trying to figure out how on earth do you become an artist, right? Like, how do you do that? I don't know how to do that. And so I thought if I could just get a painting in a coffee shop, then I'd be like, okay, like I'm going to do this. So I went around Austin, Texas, and I was living in Bryan, Texas at the time. And I went around and I scheduled shows at all these coffee shops, like one every month. And I would like move it from one coffee shop to another coffee shop to another coffee shop and like make work and add it in, and a restaurant. Anyway, at one of those coffee shops, Dana, who runs the Blue Genie Art Bazaar, which is an art and gift show that runs every year in Austin, sent me an email and said, "Oh, I saw your paintings. I'd love for you to be in my art show." And I was like, sign me up. So I was in his art show for years and years. And then back in, I guess, 2007, 8, we started going to life drawing classes together.
Romantic.
Totally.
Are
Anyway.
life drawings still life? Is that like whenever you
Like drawing a figure model.
Okay, cool.
So you're taking the figure drawings.
So romance.
That's right. So we took, are you coming to the figure drawing class? Yes. So we'd show up. on our bicycles, draw. For like a year, we just hung out.
That's
It was
nice.
fun.
Yeah.
Eventually, we got married.
Oh,
Yep.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And then started making art together.
Let's see, we got married in 2011, and that's when I got my job at A&M. And we had our first joint exhibition in 2013.
Okay. So do you really still feel, as an individual artist, or do you feel like his work really complements yours to the point where you kind of need each other to feed off of?
I mean, I think we both have our own independent creative practice. But, humans are, we're social animals, and the people we're around influence us so much. And so we're married and we hang out on the couch and we're like talking about ideas and we're talking about process. And then inevitably we make a show.
Yeah. Okay. That's great.
Yeah, so he definitely has shows that he does by himself. I have shows that I do by myself. But when we're developing these bodies of work, just the momentum of having two of us together is just very useful. It's hard to do things in a vacuum.
Right.
Do you guys primarily stick to the Western theme, or do you have other series with different themes?
We did another exhibition called Some You, Some Me.
I was about to ask
We
about
love that one.
Okay. Yeah.
And we were thinking about like humans' relationship to nature and the external landscape versus our own internal emotional landscape. So I made these paintings, which were head and shoulders portraits of women. There's a theme that I do, portraits of women. And they were like in an environment that was kind of like their emotional landscape. And during the pandemic, actually right before the pandemic, the figures started dropping out of my paintings. And so I'd always done figures within the landscape. The Re-Western, it was like the cowboy in the landscape, or the Some You, Some Me series, the head and shoulders in front of the emotional landscape. And then after that came a joint exhibition that Dana and I did, Trailheads and Transmutations, and the figure dropped out entirely. So kind of with the pandemic, we were losing people like socially in our lives. And then also they kind of left my paintings.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, because everybody's quarantining. You're not seeing your friends. You're not going to class.
Right.
So you do feel like that empty landscape yourself sometimes.
Is it supposed to feel empty, like you are missing something when you look back at your Some You, Some Me, or is it like just a landscape? Just
Well, the Some You, Some Me still had people.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Trailheads and Transmutations, that's when the people really dropped out. And I still kind of consider it a portrait. It's just a portrait of a landscape.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's like there's our physical nature and then our spiritual nature. And I think the landscape represents more the spiritual nature. And I felt so strongly during those years where we were in isolation and we were trying to like examine what was happening across the entire world. I just really felt like going inwards, and what came out was landscape.
Yeah. And remind me again when you moved to Texas.
My parents moved to Texas in 1992, and I was 15.
Okay, so the Western landscape has been in your inspiration in the back of your mind for quite a while, and that's the place you naturally went to when, COVID happened and we were all dealing with some of our internal turmoils. But do any other landscapes kind of creep into your inspiration besides the Western?
Yeah, it's interesting. I went to high school in British Columbia, Canada. So my parents were in Texas, but I was in a boarding school in Canada, and
so you didn't move here at 15? They just moved here at 15?
Well, they moved here, and then I went to a boarding school, so I was there like kind of during the year. They were supposed to move to Texas for a year, but then they just never left. So the woods of British Columbia, Canada, these like old growth temperate rainforests are like
that.
in my
It sounds
dreams. Oh my,
Yeah.
it's like to die for. It's like lush, rich earth that smells so good, and trees that are massive. And it's interesting. I think when I moved to Texas, there was something about the landscape that was so harsh. like almost uninhabitable. And there was something about painting it in a way that exemplified its kind of beauty. There's kind of a tension there. Like it's this dry, craggy desert in West Texas that like if you forget your water, you're going to be in trouble. But when you paint it, it's just it's almost jewel-like, the different colors and shapes, and
You really do bring out those fabulous just colors, and your brush strokes. They're loose, but it's still so realistic, and it's just so beautiful how you depict just a simple landscape. Like you can't take a picture like that.
You do these little red flakes, which I just love so much. 'Cause it's like the sun hitting, and it's like the highlight, and it's beautiful. I
You
love
can
it.
really tell like it's hot there and it's dry, but it's like beautiful and colorful.
You can tell how deadly that sun is. But you depict it so well. It makes me want to go there.
yeah, last night, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, I was like, oh, it's cooled down. And we look at the thermometer, 106. I'm like, oh, it's cooled down.
Yeah.
It's dangerous out there. But being in the water's nice. So,
Oh, definitely. And San Angelo is so beautiful with this river. Y'all have this river that runs through it, and this
True.
historic downtown that has all this amazing architecture. And then the museum itself has a beautiful architecture. So, yeah, I'm super excited to be here.
We're so happy.
I've actually come to San Angelo a number of times, but somehow never knew it was San Angelo.
Oh.
And so, like, I've been to your downtown, like, eaten and been out and been to the Mexican restaurant down the road. And
There's
so-
a lot of little like iconic places here in San Angelo, but I don't know, it puts us on the map for some reason. Everybody's like, I know San Angelo, and it's like, you do?
Yeah.
But I did want to ask you, so in Austin, I'm sure like having these feminism ideals or inspirations in your artwork aren't as weird or wacky, but in small rural towns, maybe like San Angelo, maybe not. You might get some blowback from that, unfortunately. I was wondering if you have had that before, or if you are at all concerned about that, just in general.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, I think one thing that's happened with these paintings is because there's like an entry point for almost everyone, they don't these ideas don't come across as very threatening.
No, right.
Right? So it's kind of interesting because like the people that love Westerns, grew up watching Westerns, they're like, oh my gosh.
Well, I love Westerns.
Yeah, like I love Gary Cooper in that movie, and they know more about the movies than I do, and that's fun for me to have that dialogue. But like just a little crack of, oh, that could be a woman. And yeah, I mean, I haven't had a lot of overtly negative responses.
Well, that's great.
I think that, many people could just miss the point completely. They're like, oh my gosh, a girl cowboy, it's so cute, but I love John Wayne more. Like,
If they don't like go like us and read your entire website and comb through, and we're like,
because they already have this idea in their mind of like, oh, well, it's always going to be a man, and there's always going to be a man on that role, and there's always going to be this like masculine or like this like dominance over it. So they just kind of view the portrait at like face value, and so they don't really get. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. So to kind of talk about power and culture, you almost need to know that these are coming from movies. Right? But also, if you don't know that they're from movies, then they're just a powerful portrait, right? So I feel like the people that know Western movies, they know just who it is. Like, they're like, oh yeah, I know that movie, I know that scene from that movie. And then there's other people, younger people probably, who approach it without having ever seen a Western movie. So, yeah, I don't know. I haven't gotten a lot. But I like the idea that there are different access points for different people. You know, like someone who just simply loves Westerns can also enjoy them.
Right.
And me or Gabriel, who typically don't enjoy Western
Like if we're
movies or
reasons,
culture, we're totally in love with your art. So it's great.
I feel like the genre is cool. I mean, the outfits are cool. So cool. The like aesthetic is so cool. I love this like strong idea of like good and bad. You know, it's just so iconic. So it is fun to play with. So it can be fun, but I think if we can make it more inclusive, for everyone, then it's a little more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, my other last big question that I wanted to ask was, if you were a heroine in a Western, who would you be replacing and in what Western?
Whoa. How can I not have thought of this question ever?
I was like, I bet you thought of this before. I was like, oh, she'll answer this.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's funny. Like with all my other series, except Re-Western, I've always used people I know. But in the initial Re-Western series, I used nobody I knew.
Oh.
And I used people who like wanted to be kind of famous or like wanted to be a star and had an affiliation with a specific character in a Western movie. So like the one of the models, Virginia, grew up with a Clint Eastwood poster, and she responded to an ad and she said, I have to be Clint Eastwood. And then someone else was like, I need to be James Dean. Like,
And these were your colleagues?
these are people that, for the original series with the full figures.
Okay.
These were people I did not know. I got them off of Craigslist.
Oh my goodness.
So that was crazy.
That's so
Right.
cool. Wait, like the movie poster that's in?
Not the movie poster. The movie poster that's in there, there was a movie, a female director out of Canada who was making an all-female Western movie and asked me to do the poster. So
Amazing.
That's the poster?
that is the art for a all-female Western short movie
Oh my
that she did
goodness.
called Last Stand to Nowhere.
That's so cool. Okay. I'll
Amazing.
watch
I really need to think about what,
Yeah, take your time. Yeah. It's an important question.
I mean, I might need to think for like a year.
Ooh. Hang on to your
we,
seats.
we don't have a year.
it. Okay, we'll be back, guys.
Yeah,
In a year.
you don't
I
have to
know.
answer now, but if
Part
the
2 in a year.
inspiration comes
Well,
to
I
you,
probably want to be James Dean because he's just so cool. You know? Yeah. But also I want to be John Wayne because he's so iconic.
iconic. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's like the name that I know of whenever.
think of Western.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Whenever I think of my grandpa. I think, yeah.
Yeah. So I love talking to your grandpa, those people, and then I love talking to you because I think both people come at this from two really interesting points of view, but there's still an access point in both ways.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
so nice.
Yeah.
So you do have that inclusivity, and so it's there, and that's good.
I like people to walk into an art museum and have an access point. I think that sometimes it can get a little exclusive. Like you walk in and if it's just like, you know, sometimes the entry point is just purely aesthetic. Like you see the aesthetics, but sometimes you walk into a gallery and you're like, I have no idea what's going on. And I think artists can be a little more thoughtful about giving people an access point.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about your work? Or about any more inspirations or any more series to come? Or what are we thinking?
I'm just so happy to be here. Yeah,
We're
I'm
allowed
super
to
happy
hear
to be here. I am really enjoying my time in San Angelo. I love these galleries. And the people have been super great to work with. Thank you guys so much for like investigating the work that I do.
Stalking.
I spend a lot of time making this, and sometimes I'm like, is this just for me?
I think it's
So-
okay even if it is just for you.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I agree, but it's also nice to have someone who's like looked at it and thought about
And so
it.
are your paintings anywhere permanently, or is your work anywhere permanently, like in Austin or at College Station? Or is that what's moving?
One of my Western paintings was collected by a museum in Georgia. I have a painting in the permanent collection of the Booth Museum of Western Art in Georgia.
Amazing. Western.
So I
art.
was super excited that they bought one of the pieces. Rebecca Wayne in True Grit
Oh, fun.
with the eye patch.
Yeah, the iPad.
I'll look it up.
Oh, yeah.
True
She's-
Grit is
she's
actually,
super cool.
there's like a new adaptation of that one. So you could probably go into that.
That's true.
Who's Mel Gibson?
Well, so at some point in September, we'll come back and we'll do some type of workshop here. So
You are?
one thing that we might do is we might do a photo shoot to get people to pose, get women or men to pose as a Western character. So that could be a fun.
How exciting.
That might be fun. So if we do that in September, you guys have to come.
Absolutely. Be on the lookout.
I'll bring
for
hats and shirts.
Yeah. Do you guys have dates yet, or is it just up in the air still a little bit?
It's September.
Okay.
Yeah. I
I'll
know
put my gallery
that
workshop.
we want to do it when the university is in session here. So, and that's Angelo, is that right?
Angelo State University.
Angelo State University. And there's another, is there a community college here too?
There is Howard College, and that's
Yes, come see the Peacemakers. It's in Gallery Verde from July 20th through October 8th. Features husband and wife duo Felice House and Dana Younger.
and then
Trailheads is happening also through October 8th.
More amazing work to see in the
So
Coop Gallery.
we thought we were bringing one show, but now we have two.
They brought 2 shows
the
with
more the
them.
merrier. That's right. Those spots need to be filled with amazing art, and you guys did it. So thank you.
We're super excited about both shows.
I'm excited.
Well, thank you for being a guest with us
thank
today.
you.
Thank you guys.
Definitely
What a
having
pleasure.
you.
Total pleasure.